up, everybody? It's Chad. I'm back again with another episode. We're here, season 2, and I'm here with my friend Corrina. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. It's been a long time coming. We've been on the road these past couple months, and I figured it was a great time to have you on right now. So thanks for joining.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. And before we jump into the episode, I want to thank our sponsor for this month, actually, Quality Packaging. Thank you again for sponsoring this episode and the rest of the month. They are there for your packaging needs, in compliance, great communication, many pricing, and totally custom. Also, they're on time. That's another good important thing because sometimes you have a time crunch. Contact Josh Villegas for business inquiries or estimates at 575-571-6288 or email them at Koala Customs with a K, 210@gmail.com. All right. Thank you so much, Koala Customs. So again, Corrina, thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to be talking about a few things that are kind of important and, to be honest, kind of newer conversations too later on, which, I'm kind of glad are happening, but we'll get on to that a little bit later. Let's talk about you and Royal Road. Can you introduce yourself to the kind people watching today?
Certainly. My name is Corrina Marramontes. I opened a dispensary about a month and a half ago on Mesquita Street in the historic district of Las Cruces, the original town site. My building is a 108-year-old adobe. It is a live-work space, so I do live in it. It is a art gallery dispensary. I don't know. Well, let's talk about it. What kind of questions do you have? It is on the Merchant Trail. It is on the Camino Real. So I grew up in that neighborhood, and we used to be able to go into people's homes and ask for a soda pop or a candy bar, and it was the local tiendita. And so the concept is like a cannabis tiendita. And so, we have some other really neat things that are helpful for your health and wellness. And so we want to create a really a community wellness spot for people. I definitely believe that cannabis and whole plant medicine is key to a healthy lifestyle.
100%. Now, do people get to meet your two fuzzy employees?
Yes. My two little dogs, Sochi Bean and Chuko. Sochi Bean actually she was a special breed of dog for cannabis farms in northern New Mexico. She came from a little town in Mendocino County called Covelo. And she is bred to take care of a field of cannabis. And yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. And Chuko found me, I was kind of day tripping to El Paso one day, and he found me at Sierra Vista Nursery in La Union, and we instantly fell in love, and he's a great mascot and a great protector.
We call him Falcor. He's a big old bear. He's a great dog.
Great Pyrenees. He's a great Pyrenees.
Oh, he's a big old teddy bear.
Mm-hmm.
We love him to death.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us a little bit about your experience in the cannabis industry? I mean, you mentioned California, and I know personally that, you've lived there for many years, but can you give the audience a little, tidbit of it?
I will. I do, first of all, want to say that I did grow up in Las Cruces. I am a New Mexican. I did go to Hermosa Heights Elementary School, which is right around the corner from my dispensary. I did graduate from Las Cruces High School, so I was a bulldog. My mother's family was from California, both southern and northern. So I went back and forth throughout my whole life to Sonoma County, Ventura County, and Las Cruces, New Mexico. So in Northern California, of course, a lot of people know in the traditional market, they have this history of the Emerald Triangle. Mm-hmm. My family is from Sonoma County, California, right underneath Mendocino County, California. I would be considered a second-generation cultivator. I grew up in traditional market cannabis camps in Northern California. Then as, we had a really incredible medical market in California for a while, and it was very interesting scene to be a part of. during that time, it was more of a hobby for me to be in the cannabis industry, but my career was in food and wine. I'm a certified sommelier. So a lot of the way I analyze cannabis is very much academic, like wine. But so always having a finger in Mendocino County and the traditional market in the cannabis industry in born into it in Northern California. And then just as times change, like they're changing here in New Mexico, it was a really amazing thing to watch and see and be a part of. I definitely always felt like I was part of history in the making. But so worked with a couple of farms, and then in the recreational market, I was able to kind of take my skills of opening restaurants into opening up a dispensary in Northern California as a consultant, and it was called Bohemian Chemist, and it was an apothecary pretty much, and it was a really amazing project to be a part of, to implement all the systems, to help curate their brand. They have like this really doing incredible things with their brand, the Bohemian Chemist. But it was really exciting to get to be a part of that project and launch it. And Jim, one of my mentors, branding mentors, like bringing cannabis traditional market into like real business branding was just a really incredible lesson for me.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I mean, that's a lot of experience to share, actually, so thank you for that, because there's a lot of history behind that. So you've been really involved on that side since the 215 days all the way to the Prop 64 days, essentially.
Even before 215.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, there we go. And can we elaborate on the camps a little bit? For those who aren't too sure, you don't have to get too crazy, but, what are the camps that you talk about? Like, what do they really entail of?
So, I mean, there's a lot of wild things that went on in Northern California.
It was crazy. Yeah.
People would own, large parcels of land. There was already a back to the land movement in the 60s and 70s in Northern California. And I think that kind of birthed cannabis.
Okay.
So people were growing their own food, growing their own cannabis, and then it's such an ideal climate for so many things. So these camps are like properties. Some of them are off-grid. Some of them have electricity, and some of them have homes. Some of them have trailers. They're, usually a group of people will run a couple gardens on, like 80 acres to 200 acres. Mm-hmm. And it's a very interesting lifestyle. You're I don't know if anybody has like watched the documentary Murder Mountain. That's where I was.
I've seen it, yeah.
That's where I was.
Yeah. And
so it's a very interesting way of living and a very interesting lifestyle to be a part of.
Yeah.
There was definitely caravans that would come in, and we would communicate with each other to protect each other. Mendocino did this really amazing thing where they would give you a tax tag for your plant during medical. And so they would leave the people alone that paid the tax tags. But because of federal, they would still go in, and you would have to deal with camp. I've personally been like, pulled over, put on the side of the road, my whole car searched, held there for more than an hour, just being interrogated the whole time about where I was coming from, how much money I had on me, if I had any guns, like, and then not to mention that's just dealing with authorities, like the internal system, which was mostly very collaborative, but you would find bad seeds every once in a while, and that would be a very scary thing.
Yeah.
One of the first times I was left to take care of a property, someone was murdered the night before, and the helicopters were out and we hadn't set our watering lines yet. So I was the only one on the property, and I had to water a field of 300 plants and 3 other gardens of 25 plants in different places. And the helicopters and the planes would just be like circling above me as I'm watering these gardens.
You're still like, please don't land. Please don't drown.
Not to mention they hadn't found the murderer.
Oh,
so
God.
Then,
it's a double threat.
So then I would, that my first time staying alone, I would wait until the sun rose to even get any to get any sleep because I was so nervous about it. But so yeah, really, I mean, those stories are like there's lots of those stories because of the years in that culture. I mean, that's just like that's just the beginning of the wild stories.
Yeah, because a lot of people have a misconception like, oh, the Emerald Triangle was dope, all these hippies, and it must have been great. It's like it was actually pretty crazy. Like, like
It was
a lot of violence up there, to be honest. Like there's legalization, making cannabis illegal is what really caused these issues in the end.
Right.
Because you had to operate so secretively, and then people could screw each other so easily, and then you have the police and federal government involved, and it was crazy. So
and that being said, all those obstacles, there also was a really incredible tight knit community, and then like ethos, unspoken word. People, we did things. There was things that we didn't talk about, but those were our ethics in this traditional market business, and sometimes I miss those like unwritten laws of like you don't do that.
Yeah. Don't we all? Because now with finding out here in New Mexico, there's some people who have no ethics whatsoever who are in business, and it's really hard. Because you and I have seen it firsthand, and it's just like you've got to be kidding me. This wouldn't work in any business.
Right.
So yeah, and I kind of wish that too. But what made you come back home after being there for so long and experiencing so much on that side?
Well, I know COVID shifted a lot of people's perception of life and, what they were doing. I came back to take care of my grandmother for the winter of 2021.
Okay.
I spent 4 months here, and so New Mexico was getting ready to launch recreational.
Yeah.
But I was here taking care of my grandmother and hanging out with my family, and I would just come up with these conversations, and I didn't realize how much information I had gathered in the last 25 years of being away from Las Cruces. And of course, I am a freedom fighter and always will cheer for the underdog. And so I felt like I had to really come back to Las Cruces to share some of the knowledge that I had gained in Northern California, not only about cannabis, mostly about cannabis and all the layers of cannabis, but as a female Latina that was successful in businesses, I felt like I had the chance to influence other young Latinas that maybe came from broken homes like I did here in Las Cruces. So I really felt moved to come back and share my story, which I feel like is a success story.
Right. Yeah. No, it is. I'm hearing some of this for the first time myself.
Right.
Yeah. So
I did all the things on my goals list. I was I've created beverage programs for Michelin star restaurants. Which is even hard to understand what that really means. But in the textbook idea of success, I was able to hit it, but it still was not like satisfying my soul. I was always like, what else out there is gonna make me happy, spiritually happy? And I've always had a special relationship with plant medicine and cannabis, clearly.
Yeah.
And so that really felt like a road of purpose, and I felt happier about it than what I was doing in Northern California.
Nice. So it was pretty much time to come home and kind of help us here, because do you kind of feel the way we went about legalization, I wouldn't say it was the right way. No one's really done it right yet. Do you think it's a way that's in the right direction?
I do. Yeah. I think it's really an incredible way. I am so proud of New Mexico, New Mexicans that helped with all, Valerie Hubbard. We got to thank Valerie Hubbard.
Love you, Val.
Yes, love you, Val. I think it's a really special time to be involved in the cannabis industry here in New Mexico. I think that the micro license is a really incredible way so that the true mom and pop, the true craft cultivator, craft manufacturer, I think it's brilliant. Yeah. I think it's a really wonderful ways. Like any industry, when it's brand new, there's going to be hiccups, and there's going to be, different challenges. but it's interesting because I keep thinking of kind of what you said about like ethics. I
Yeah.
think as long as that we're all doing the best that we can and choosing to do the right thing, that it's gonna be a really beautiful situation for us.
Yeah. And the people that don't belong here, hopefully, if things remain, they are, because they're on their way to get kicked out. They get out of the industry, and also with some law changes with CCD getting more power, that will help too, because we have that saturation of out-of-state cannabis that's kind of plaguing the industry. I wouldn't say it's a majority issue, but there's a lot of illegal cannabis on the market.
Right.
More than there should be.
Right.
There shouldn't be any.
And it's not fair to New Mexicans.
No, it's not, because you're not supporting New Mexicans at all.
Right.
You're not supporting
Right.
New Mexican growers.
Right.
That money doesn't stay in New Mexico. It's
and that's one of my biggest beefs also with like multi-state opera, all the things, because I mean, I obviously made the shift in my life to like move here because I want my money to stay here. I think it's very important. New Mexico being one of the poorest states in the United States. Like that money that's being made here, should stay here.
Yeah. Our water doesn't even stay here, so at least keep the money here.
Right.
So that's something too. Yeah. So no, I'm glad to hear that, because there's some people that came into the state and didn't even know anything about it. You're from here, so you understand it, but they came here, and I'm just like, oh, buddy, you're gonna have a terrible time here.
Well, and that's the thing, and that's the beautiful thing. I know in our notes you were comparing like California, Hawaii. New Mexico is a very it's a very traditional, very interesting place to do business in.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand the demographics and the culture of neighborhoods, cities, and state, then it is gonna be challenging for you here.
Even Eastern New Mexico, we're so spread out in New Mexico that even Eastern New Mexico is night and day from even Las Cruces, and we're considered Southern New Mexicans. And like if you go to Hobbs, for an example, or Carlsbad, night and day different. Even the housing kind of looks a little different. It's kind of like you're stepping back in time a little bit. So if you're not aware of that and you come in, you're going to struggle a little bit, if not make it at all.
Right.
Because we don't like outsiders, and I've said that I don't know how many times, and I just want people to get that in their heads and understand that if you're coming to the state, you need to do it in a way where you're not seeming like you're trying to just change everything and take over. Just operate here and try to figure out from there.
Assimilate.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, like
because we are a beautiful, beautiful state, a beautiful culture with so many incredible layers.
Yeah. Like onions. Shrek reference, right? So the name of your shop, it's a translation from El Camino Real.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, Royal Road, the Royal Road, El Camino Real.
Yeah.
My dispensary is on the road that went from Mexico City to Santa Fe. It was the Merchant Trail. And so, I mean, we all love the idea of royal, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, it just seemed to flow and fit and match the building, the street. I mean, it's pretty wild that I can say, oh, Pat Garrett lived on my street.
That is kind of wild to say that, yeah. And I didn't know that, so thank you for that tidbit. That's actually pretty cool.
Yep.
And we all know Billy Kid, hung out in the area too, so I'm sure he was hanging out in the neighborhood. If you guys don't know, the road actually where her dispensary is the El Camino Real. It's the literal trail and road that they took during this trail and everything. So it's actually historic. A lot of the buildings down in that area haven't been touched, more or less renovated or fixed. Like you said, it's over 100 years old, your adobe?
It's 108 years old. And the interesting thing about the neighborhood, too, is that it is the most intact historic district from El Paso to San Diego.
Really?
There is 700 adobes in that neighborhood that are still intact.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is a special little neighborhood.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's really cool that, you decided to, coin, use the name and everything for that, there's a lot of history and things that tie into it.
Right.
And
well, I grew up in that neighborhood. And my dad grew up hustling in that neighborhood.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a pretty I just have to give a little shout out and props to myself and Las Esperanzas. I was just put on the board as historian for our little neighborhood community group, and so super stoked on Las Esperanzas, and I'm going to do my best to maintain as much history as I can of the neighborhood. So,
Definitely. Awesome. Well, who better than to someone who's already has a bunch of rich history. So,
thank you.
and you know how to share it. So that's
Thank you.
what's great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think the girls called you the cool aunt.
Yep.
I think that's what they said.
Yep.
Have you had anybody like previous owners or family come to you and tell you, "Hey, we used to live here," or anything like that?
I actually had a really wild experience on Monday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. These brothers, they were in town for a funeral, and one now lives in Huntington Beach, and one lives in San Diego. Gosh, I have their names written down, but they came in and they had heard about they heard about the property. They came in and they like immediately started crying, and then they started talking about their grandmother who lived there, who was a medicine woman,
Yeah.
and a prayer warrior,
Mhm.
and had all kinds of really had medicine growing in the garden. And that's been my whole vision with the
Oh.
property anyways, is to plant medicine. And so it was pretty wild. It was, I took me a minute to like process really what was going on. And I mean, they were definitely moved by it. They, talked about Christmas in 1985. They got they talked about how she was always praying, and how she was always, one of the main walls in the dispensary was her prayer wall.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was it was a really interesting experience. And so, I mean, I had felt energy there with me before, all positive, of course. But I thought it was my grandmother, but I don't know if it's my grandmother or their grandmother.
Either way, it's nice. That's good to know.
Yes. So that was really wonderful. And the granddaughter works in plant medicine as well. And so I think that we are going to build, and she raises San Pedros.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I like San Pedro too.
And so we are going to probably do a little prayer garden and dedicate it to the grandmother, probably. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's really nice of you.
Yeah. Well, it's nice of them too,
Yeah.
to give me the history and the story
Yeah.
of my house. So
and that adds more to what you're doing, your retail and everything. So you have a dispensary there, but you can add more history to it. It's like this house belonged to someone who is already into plant medicine. So that's really cool. It really ties into what you're doing.
Yeah.
And, you can just add more to it and bring more people in with that. So that's really cool. People love history and cannabis at the same time, and they can go in and learn something about the area.
Right.
Tenfold essentially. From the street down to the people that lived in the house.
Mm-hmm.
It's all very interesting, and I love that.
Yeah, it's like verification, quantification.
Yeah. You are where you need to be.
It's pretty sweet. Yeah. And I mean, we have lots of other things besides cannabis there that are like, there's people that I've come across there, their plant medicine all over the world. So I want to have a little corner of remedios that I'm calling Royal Road Remedios, that are non-cannabis, interesting things to help with health and wellness.
Awesome. Well, speaking of products, what other products do you carry at the dispensary there? Do you have like a wide range of, edibles, tinctures to flower, rosin, etc.? Like what is it?
Absolutely. I mean, we want to have something for everyone. I mean, we're not going to go over the top with a million SKUs. Because everything is, very carefully picked.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's hard to respond to that question and not, give kudos to every single brand in the space. But I'm super happy to, to be working with the kitchen. Chris Baca is one of the partners in the kitchen, and him and I have known each other for about 15-20 years. Mm-hmm. And so it's really, when we were emailing with putting the final order, he was like, nobody knows how long we've waited for this.
Yeah.
And this is a special email.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty amazing to get his support. So that's really great. Definitely proud to have the kitchen, Cruces Craft Cannabis, of course. I was just actually thinking about Josh. I had an open house a year before I opened, and Josh was there.
Oh.
He supported. Yeah. He was so that means a lot to me. Our flower, we have, we have some cultivators from Las Cruces, of course. We do also have some sun-grown cultivators from northern New Mexico.
I know sun-grown's your favorite.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, I love all cannabis. There's a place for all cannabis. But we do have big green growers right now, and thankfully, you guys took me to PMC, and David Hill that's his, is that,
yeah,
that's his
David,
handle.
that's
I never
his,
know if it's his real name.
Miko Lee or whatever, but David's
I
David Hill's his real
mean,
name.
his facility is incredible, and his attention to detail is like his, his grow was really incredible. And I liked, before I make any purchasing decisions, I really do a deep dive in researching what I'm going to support.
Yeah.
And so it was incredible to see his facility and then talk to him about his, passion in cannabis. So super excited to have them on with him as the grower. We do have Equilibrium Seeds. A dear friend of mine is a breeder.
Oh, you're selling seeds.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. He's a breeder in Northern California, and we curated the selection of like Afghani cultivars for, we were like, what's going to be good in this area?
Yeah.
And so in my little hobby garden from those seeds, I was able to do, Oaxacan Jaguar that did really well, Persian Triangle that did really great. So we have Equilibrium Seeds. We do, as far as, and then Big Green Growers, Desert Flower, of course. And within Desert Flowers Manufacturing, Tingen Farms, who, I was really excited to support them because they had a really, they got some press. It was,
I actually got into it with that lady a couple times.
So always, again, supporting the underdog.
I supported them too. I thought it was bullshit what they were dealing with.
Right.
That wasn't fair.
I agree. And they're doing such a clean, I've gone to their facility and they have an incredible fence, a double fence, and then they've, landscaped that.
Yeah, it looks
and
nice.
Then,
yeah,
I'm a nerd for the greenhouse guru, who is this, he's a cannabis greenhouse builder, and he came and helped work on. He came from Northern California and helped work on their greenhouse.
Oh, that's good.
They hired him.
That's good.
Yeah, so that was exciting. Let's see. We have Wild, of course. I think it's a great product to introduce people to CBD with THC.
Yeah.
Because again, I believe in whole plant medicine. So I believe sometimes you need just a kiss of THC to help the CBD, or you need a kiss of or the opposite. And, I think that we're gonna probably we're gonna have a conversation about full spectrum and how really important that is. And although I say no multi-state operators, Wild for me is a tool where I can kind of help people. They have a 2-to-1 gummy, they have a CBG gummy, they have a CBC gummy, and they have multiple cannabinoids, and that really is the beauty of cannabis, whole plant medicine. Again, full spectrum. We don't just isolate the THC.
Yeah.
It is a great pain reliever. But that's not all the plant has to offer. And Wild is a really neat tool to be able to express that education with all,
Plus, their packaging is fantastic.
It is.
It is. It's phenomenal.
It is.
No, I agree, because a lot of people are too focused on the THC only thing, and we'll get to that conversation more. We're gonna have a whole conversation about that, to be honest, because it's something that needs to be talked about now, and it's something that has just been let to just do its own thing for too long, and now we all need to kind of correct it. So I agree. There's certain out-of-state entities that came in and they did it right. Like they didn't come in and like, oh, we're just gonna grow the crappiest of the crap. Like, no, they're coming in with a really great product. That I can respect. Right. Having a really great product coming from somewhere else. Yeah, share it with everyone else if it's a great product. If you're in it for the right thing. So there's certain companies that I kind of feel that kind of get forgiven. When it comes to certain things, by the New Mexicans, I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. If they're gonna help, if they're gonna help us out and set us up in a certain way.
What do you do?
Yeah.
Because like, how many New Mexicans shop at Top Crop? They're from Oregon, or Dark Matter.
Right.
For that sense, but they're really supportive of New Mexicans, and the owners actually live here now. You
Right.
know, so it's
Right.
like not like someone's just sitting in Oregon,
Right.
calling controls. The dude lives
Right.
here. You know,
Right.
so that's
Right.
relieving. You know, you
Right.
have certain things like that. You know, that's a
Mhm.
little different. Don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
One of the bigger ones in the state, et cetera, et cetera. But we're early. It's about year two.
Mhm.
So we
Mhm.
have quite a bit of time, which is this isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So the operators that we have here now may not be here in 10 years from now. Things change and they change rapidly. So you did open up officially not long ago, right? How long
I
ago was that?
did. On December 3rd, I opened up. And you know what we didn't mention? It is an art gallery as well.
Yeah, you know what? I'm sorry. Yeah, let's talk about the art gallery part. Yeah.
I didn't mention it.
Yeah.
I have to, give props to my brother Saba. We have some of his fine art, and it's incredible. It is incredible. And then we also have Mario Roberts. We intend to change, based out of El Paso. Really fun action, bright colors. Do come by and see it.
There you go. Cannabis and art kind of go together.
Yep. So we intend to change the artist maybe every 4 months and have an open house, meet the artist, and
that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Super excited to celebrate local art.
Yeah, me too, because a lot of people know who Saba is in the area, especially in the state. So that's great that you have some of his art and maybe bring more people in too, because I enjoy looking at his art too. Anytime I see it, so that's great. And like, is it separated from the retail part, or is it kind of put together?
Yeah, it's together.
So you did the whole New Mexico thing, where if you see a picture on the wall, you can buy it.
Yes,
I love that.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing I love about my state is like if you go to a restaurant and you see a picture, usually you'll see a price tag on it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because you can buy it. You can buy the art right off the wall.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's true for most places in New Mexico, especially in Santa Fe. Santa Fe is one of the places where they do that everywhere. Everywhere in El Paso, you'll see price tags on it because you just buy it right off the wall.
Yep.
And that's kind of true with your store too.
Yeah,
so,
it is absolutely.
You're like the first one to really embrace the New Mexico-ness. And that's really cool. And you didn't even know that. Dope. So where can people find you online and in person? Address wise.
So in person, we are 606 North Mesquite. In Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Yeah.
On IG, Royal Road CC. The CC makes things a little bit easier.
Okay.
So yes, Royal Road CC, and my personal handle is Canna Corrina.
It works. It works.
So yeah, and we do have a website, royalroadcc.com. Mesquite Street.
Yeah.
606 North Mesquite Street. I have these really amazing royal blue shutters. And so the cream adobe with the blue shutters, that's me. And we just finally had our sign put up, and I kind of followed the historic district sign. So it looks very similar. The president of Las Esperanzas thought it was a historic district sign. She said I had to take a second look, and I was like, that's her sign. So again, paying homage to the surroundings. But yeah, now there's a little sign that looks very historic out on the building.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. To bring more people, now people know exactly where you are.
Yep.
Because I remember the first time you trying to find it, is this it? Is this it?
Right.
Wasn't too sure.
Right.
So that's great, that you're doing that. When's your grand opening going to happen, though?
You are probably the 6th or 7th person to ask me today. So soon. I mean, we do have some really incredible events in February. We are doing, again, community space is really what I'm trying to create as well. So we're doing an open mic night the first weekend of February. We're doing a cannabis industry class with an insurance agent. That's brilliant. Rachel, yep.
Rachel Raquel?
Yep. Amazing. She's also one of my employees, or my employee. And then we are doing a really incredible, I'm super excited about a natural farming class that we're doing at the end of February. Julian Scallion, who is from northern New Mexico, he splits his time between Italy and Albuquerque. But he is so brilliant. I'm so excited. He's going to come down and teach a natural farming 101 class at the dispensary. So all you cultivators, come check him out.
All right. Yeah, I'll have to come to you. Let me know when you're having these. I didn't even know they were going on.
Yeah,
So.
yes. And then into March, I think it's Women's Empowerment Month. So I think we're going to do a women's sesh.
Oh, cool.
Women's Empowerment sesh. And then I think we're also going to be doing a growers circle, just to get the growers together and the clients to possibly ask questions if they haven't, like just bringing more cohesiveness to grower and purchaser.
Yeah, kind of like what I do with this is I'm trying to give more of a personableness of the owner and the consumer.
Yep.
Because instead of just seeing a building and the place where you get your weed, you get to know something about them, a little bit about the building, a little bit about them. So yeah, you're doing the same thing. So that's great because, growers tend to be a little antisocial sometimes, and so they need it themselves. It's good for them too.
Well, it's important for them to share their knowledge.
Yes. And it gets them better at sharing their knowledge.
Yeah, it like transmute into education, which I think we all need.
Yeah, because sometimes growing for so long, some of the guys don't know how to teach very well, but they have all that knowledge, and that's what I've ran into myself. I'm like, let me help you teach this.
Right.
So this trains them to teach other people because the knowledge that they have does need to be passed down generationally.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of information that we're learning now about cannabis that we had prior knowledge. We still use it, but there's still a lot of new stuff.
Yeah.
And some things that we thought was true is no longer true, and that goes back onto the THC thing, which we'll get onto here in a little bit. So anyway, and
it's an exciting time to learn.
Yeah.
About everything and anything you possibly can.
At the beginning, there's just so much. You're a blank slate, and so there's just so much. And I remember those days. Just
not only in cannabis, but with globally, there's so much to learn about, even more than cannabis, and so it's a really exciting time right now to educate yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you have all this information at your fingertips on the internet, so heck yeah. And I'm glad that you're helping people out, because sometimes they don't know where to look. Sometimes you got to show them, but it is what it is. Anyway, so let's talk about some town hall stuff real quick while we're here. And I got to say that you're one of many women that joined me on this adventure, and I couldn't have done it without y'all. You guys were pivotal to just making this work and just everything. So I can't thank you enough. You went out of 4 to 5 of them, and
hosted one of them.
Yeah, I was leading to that next. Is that the very first one you hosted, and that was awesome. It was phenomenal. It was still warm. We're out in the back in the little garden area. I had the dogs running around, and everyone was able to, give their point of view and everything. So it's been great. But when I wasn't the one who approached you with this. Valerie was. So what made you say yes?
I never think. Knew. No, she wanted to connect us because she wanted to work on policy.
Yeah.
But how it really came out, we just were at lunch. How it came from, and I offered whatever you guys need. Whatever you need, if this resource I have is my building.
Yeah.
And my time.
Yeah.
And you are more than welcome to and then it just really organically created itself from there. I don't think Valerie created us by getting us together.
Yeah. So that first meeting that you had with us, that was the very first time that you guys talked about it.
That was a lunch.
Yeah. Okay. I thought she had talked to you previously before that. Oh, no.
No.
So that was the very first time. That's hilarious. Yeah, because it just organically just all kind of clicked.
It did.
Yeah.
It did.
That's
it was
what's great.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you guys don't know, myself and Corrina and 3 other individuals, all women, we all have been going around the state trying to collect data from different businesses around the state, even ancillary cannabis industry businesses, for the sole purpose of trying to gather data to change the law to what the industry wants and needs. Because we gathered a lot of good data, and there's a lot of things that I didn't even think of and none of us thought of, and sometimes we were just blown away at the data and the information that they were giving us. So we went on this adventure, and it's kind of still going, not to be honest, to get this done, because there was just too many people who were cherry-picked to speak for everybody, and it just didn't make sense because it wasn't what the majority of the industry wanted. It was only what the minority wanted, and that wasn't right. People like us, or smaller retails and everything, they get swept under the rug in that situation. Well, this gives everybody the voice and the chance and the opportunity. So that's the reason why we started this. And to be honest, we're probably going to kick it off again late summer, like we did this past time. Actually, it was late summer when we started. And so now we're probably going to kick it off late summer again to try to get more data, because as you guys know, the 2025 legislative session will be a 60-day session, and we'll have enough data to get the laws changed how we need it exactly. What do you hope comes from the data that we collected in the last few months?
Well, I feel like what I was hopeful for was, and like the response was so incredible, was like a platform for small businesses and for people in industry to like give their opinion, and that to me was the real beauty of it.
Yeah.
Like people felt heard.
Yeah, they did.
Like they really did. They, that, and that's, I think, the most important. That was one of my, like, just really excited about, that people were feeling heard.
Yeah.
And we kind of set an example of, like, it's okay to speak up for yourself.
Yeah,
And yeah, and I think it was a really a great start to coach people to stick up for themselves, interact with government. I'm still very green at it all. You and Valerie, like, kind of even coach me through conversations, because I don't even know the political verbiage, but those are the things that kind of scare, make people not want to engage in that kind of stuff. And I think seeing, seeing me, Tracy, you, Nicole, it made, it was conducive to a safe space.
Yeah.
That wasn't sponsored by anybody.
We pay for this stuff out of our own pockets. No one sponsors us or anything. The only help we get is a location and maybe some water.
Yeah. So, I mean, it being a safe space for us, for nurturing of conversation to change government, I mean, that it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like soul satisfying.
Yeah, it is. And, it seems that some of the stuff that we've talked about, the legislature has actually listened to. Because, looking at some of the bills, like the tax thing, they're nipping that in the bud right now.
Awesome.
There's a bill in that's going to cancel all the tax increases and keep it where it's at right now.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and hopefully that passes. Yeah,
right.
And I'll talk about that more too. I'm going to give you guys a full legislative breakdown, so we'll get more on that bill here in a little bit. But yeah, there's a bill in legislature right now for that, and other things that I've kind of just noticed, because I fortunately have a lot of legislators on my social medias, and they actually watch the show and they watch what we do. So luckily we have that in our pocket, and that helped us a lot, because, you and I were talking before the show, and, stigma was something that came up a lot in these. And I think everywhere we went, stigma was mentioned at least once or twice, if not more, but, everywhere at least once. Because stigma is huge. We all deal with the stigma here in the industry, be it from going to the store and you just so happen to smell like weed and someone gawking at you, or just being in the industry and someone thinking that you are doing the worst thing that possible to people, or whatever, whatever it may be.
Right. And we kind of talked about it. And I always like to just kind of I like to have grace with the stigma, because we have to think about the history of the stigma, right? And this area, and Mexicans, the boomer generation is mortified of marijuana. Yeah. And rightly so, because their parents, as Mexicans, were targeted during the turn of the century with marijuana and Hispanics. So, like, this stigma goes so deep for us that we can't just assume that a boomer generation is not gonna be afraid of marijuana. Yeah. Because of this deep-seated, like, reefer madness that happened at the turn of the century, targeting most of the population from around here. Yeah,
and the term marijuana was kind of coined in the area too. On top of that, due to a certain incident that happened down in El Paso. So and it was used derogatorily. Like, it wasn't used as like, oh, it's just a plant. It's like, no. If you guys have heard, if you don't speak Spanish or anything, those of you who probably don't live in New Mexico, the term marijuana. It's pretty much just a stupid stoner. It's an insult to someone who smokes weed. And if some of you have heard that before, that's essentially where it came from. So yeah, I mean, stigma, it's something that we're going to be combating for a long time, and that sucks. But at the same time, we're at least trying to help by educating.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's where it starts. Education.
It's a big job for all of us in the cannabis industry in New Mexico. So
it is. And to be honest, if you're in the cannabis industry, sorry, you signed up secretly to be an advocate, and you kind of have to fight for your industry, and that means killing the stigma, not being a silly stoner, hitting
Right.
putting a pipe in a noodle at Walmart and taking a hit from it in the middle of the aisle. Like, come on, guys, let's be a little more responsible. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. As
Right.
funny as it is, that's just stuff that doesn't make us look good.
Right. Or
And
just tapping into the reality of the rules and laws and your rights.
Yeah.
Like that stuff is pretty important.
it is, because you can hate the law all you want, but at the end of the day, you still have to follow it.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in the cannabis industry, if you own a business, you don't write the laws, and a lot of people are figuring that out now the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
And we're probably going to see that a lot more, unfortunately. So what are some pros and cons that you have personally that you didn't really get a chance, because like we just sat there and tell us what you think. So
Right.
here's your opportunity. What's your
say-
pros and cons? We can do one and one.
I
It doesn't
mean,
have to be a lot.
Obviously the micro business license.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
Yeah,
the plants.
and the New Mexican being able to purchase a license for $1,500.
Oh, that's a pro. Okay, got it.
Yeah, that's a pro.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me,
Yeah.
it's how I.
No, that's
that's like
great.
right.
Yeah.
It's really really incredible. So I think the con is that they haven't identified as social equity for me, other than the micro business license.
Yeah.
But we're all assuming that that's the social equity part of the bill, right? Nobody
never said
said
it. Yeah.
anything. There's not monies put aside for. I would like. I guess a con would be like I would like to see a little bit more. Social equity in people that have been harmed from this industry in New Mexico.
Yeah, because it is in the bill to have an actual program for it. If you guys read the bill, it's actually in there, clear as day.
It is.
So no, that's fair, because just having the license, that was great. Having it so affordable,
Right.
because not many states did that.
No.
I think Oklahoma was maybe the
No.
only other one that maybe did it
No.
similarly. You go to New York or anywhere Midwest, and it's like $1 million, $2 million.
Right.
And then the people that did get the social equity licensing thing, they're getting screwed over by bigger businesses anyway. So, there's that component. So I kind of feel we just need to support with financial stuff to help people get started. That would help them out. We got them the cheap license. Now let's help them with certain things,
Right.
the social equity
And
part.
we've heard that a lot in the town halls.
Yeah,
Like the
you're
support,
right.
the business support.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Because, the business support does need to be something that needs to be talked about or done more when it comes to like, the state and the businesses, not just
Right.
the CCD, but the state as a whole.
Well, it's interesting though, because I think that I maneuver through that a little blindly too, because it's cannabis. You don't know if like Small Business Association is willing to help you.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Because there is a lot of business resources out there. You just have to know about them, but then there's the fine line of like, oh, can they help me because I'm cannabis?
Yeah,
So-
that's true. But that's something that I kind of feel in time would need to change. But we can't stop fighting
Right.
for it.
No,
it'll happen
no.
faster if we keep fighting.
No, right,
Eventually it may happen, but
right,
when we fight, it
right.
definitely happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like these town halls
Absolutely.
are one of the things that we do and try to do to help fight. And like Corrina said, some things that are just brought up that I never even thought about or heard myself, are just amazing to know that these people are actually thinking this deep about it. Like, well, this isn't going right, blah blah blah, but they just didn't have a place to express that.
Right.
And I'm glad that we've been able to provide that.
Right. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, really, it's 100%. So what are some tips you can give other business owners who may be like skeptical of speaking up? Because some of these people, they're afraid that the government's just going to come shut them down the moment they say something.
Right. Man, I think it goes back to ethics. I do.
Yeah.
You have to know that you're doing the best you can and trying to do the right thing.
Yeah. Right.
Because it always, just like the traditional market, like you're always going to feel the repercussions when you make bad decisions ethically for your business, for your personal stuff. It's interesting because, I've done everything. I've had, one employee kind of coach me, but I've done everything from all the accounting to my bio track to my point of sale. Like I'm the one man show.
Yeah.
And I think it's important as a small business owner to have a handle on your business holistically like that though. Like know your numbers, know your cultivate, know as much as just knowledge is power.
Yeah.
educate yourself as much as possible.
On your own industry.
Yep.
Yeah, like
Yep.
if you don't know anything about your industry, what are you doing?
Right.
Like why are you
Right.
here?
Right.
Like a lot of people thought that this is just
a turnkey to a money machine, and that is
I was going to
not
say
the
the
case.
exact same words. The exact same words. I was going to. That's funny.
Yeah, that's not the case. You have to be passionate to be successful in this industry.
And you got to put yourself out there, attend events, be a part of the cannabis culture and community. If not, people aren't going to really know who you are, and they may not respect it, because the customer is the say all in the end, because they're the ones we're providing this to. You know, it's not the medical days where you can just provide something and they have no choice but to buy it from you because there's like 3 shops.
Right.
So now things are totally different.
You speak with your dollar.
Exactly. And what have you learned so far, from doing these that's kind of like humbled you? Because I know I've been humbled, a few times with doing these.
Right. Oh, that's an interesting question. I mean, this feels so insignificant, but maybe, at one of the first, how I wanted only to support sun-grown cannabis. And so that definitely humbled me, because that's not the reality of what's going on.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah.
So that was like just a kind of a little thing. It's just all been such a beautiful adventure to learn New Mexicans' opinions. It's been very special for me to be involved with it and welcomed into the space. As I ride the line of outsider insider, but my heart is with the people of New Mexico for sure.
And to be honest, some of the places we go to, we don't expect it to be fun or great. We went to Carlsbad and we had such a great time.
Right.
And like Carlsbad, people are like, oh, the only thing there is the caverns.
Right.
But we had a great time.
Right.
It was a great place we stayed. It was a really fun time. Great
important
hosts.
Yeah, important our host was an incredible contact,
Yeah.
So it was well, and even in Albuquerque, I would think I was a little nervous about Albuquerque.
Yeah.
But we were able to like nurture opinions from people in Albuquerque.
Yeah, and Albuquerque is a total different animal.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
That really was.
I felt bad for the girls though when they laughed about the Texas thing though. Well, while we're conducting it, Nicole, she's from El Paso, as you guys know. She works in the industry here, very close to New Mexico. And one of the things that we heard a lot from the South and the places closer to Texas is there needs to be more education for the Texans. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but a lot of our sales, I would say comfortably 40% or plus, come from Texas. Right. So them being educated would benefit us. So people in Albuquerque don't really realize that because they're hours away from any place that's resembles Texas. So they thought it was hilarious.
Right.
But us, we're like, what? That's actually a legitimate concern.
Right.
So that kind of humbled me because I thought I knew my state well enough.
Right.
I got very humbled in that moment. I'm like, oh my God, they have no clue.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize
right.
this. So it blew my mind, and they thought it was funny, but in my head, I'm like, this is a real issue, guys. What are you laughing at?
Well, the border being, I explain it to friends in California, like just being being so close to the border is a really intense layer of what's going on down here.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%.
I mean, Val and I, first date, got hassled by Homeland Security.
Yeah, you were telling me about that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they will do that, and of course you have to deal with these damn border checks too, so that doesn't help anything.
Yeah.
But
but unless you live here, you can't even really visit and understand the dynamics of being close to the border.
True. Close
to the border and cannabis, close to the international border, close to the Texas-New Mexico border, many layers.
Yeah, it's a little trifecta of
and
things
then
going on.
And then the screw up of the Gadsden Purchase and the Treaty of Guadalupe.
Someone messed up the
and you don't know if you're you don't know if you're in Texas, Mexico, or New Mexico sometimes.
Yeah, and I'm like, am I legal right now or am I not?
Right,
in several ways.
Right.
So no, yeah, I get that too because I called the area like Anthony and Santa Teresa. I call it the paper rip of New Mexico because that's what it looks like. It looks like someone just ripped a piece of paper carelessly and it goes like this. So there's times where I'll be sitting here. Well, here's a perfect example. There's a restaurant called On the Border. The bathroom is in Texas. Everything else is in New Mexico and other portions of it. So it's weird. So wow. And it cuts in and So I agree with you on that. They did a pretty shitty job on trying to figure out the borders on this one because it doesn't make any sense in
Well,
certain areas.
it was all about the railroad, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, a lot of fights on that. So that's a story for another day.
Right.
If you are someone or a business listening and you want to get involved, just follow our socials. We try to keep everybody informed of the town halls. Here on my podcast, I announce whenever the town halls are happening at the end of the show. So if you guys stick around or fast forward if you want, you'll hear the announcements for them. Or if you pay attention to any of my socials, I share with Corrina. She usually shares, my stuff. Vice versa, I like sharing her things. Tag me more.
Yes. I will.
Because I want to share more about her business and everything like that to everyone. So if you guys want to get involved, just contact us. Just show up. 98% of this is just showing up. The other 2% is just your 2 minutes of talking. That's really all it is.
And it's your time. It's your time to make the complaint.
Yeah.
Because if you don't make the complaint, then you shouldn't make the complaint.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you're like, why are you complaining if you're not willing to do something about it? It's just complaining at that point. And this is giving everybody the opportunity to do that. Because when we go in this, it's unbiased. We're allowing you to say what you want, and we put it down. There's a big old board, and we write it with markers. And I wouldn't say we, the girls write it because I'm not writing anything. I have terrible handwriting. So the girls write it, make it look all pretty, so we can read it. And
thank you, Tracy and Nicole.
Yes, the way that we conduct these is Tracy and Nicole are the ones who usually run these. One will write while the other talks, and then they'll flip once they get to the pro or con, which it works out pretty good.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. They do a really good job.
Great job.
They're so comfortable with it now, and I'm excited to see what they do with the next set of town halls. So shout out to Tracy and Nicole.
Yes.
You girls are awesome. Love you both.
Yep.
So anyway, thank you so much for this conversation on the town halls thing. This is something I wanted to talk about for a while.
Yeah.
But having someone that works with me directly on it makes it easier.
Awesome.
And it's more fun to talk about.
Yeah.
It's not just me well, we did this, and they're like, yeah, whatever, bullshit, buddy. So you can have someone here to tell them, no, this is really what we do.
Right. It was really interesting. I mean, you probably get it a lot more, but it was really interesting to have a representative want to go to lunch with us and hear what the town hall meeting, were about. So they are listening.
Yes, they are. Some key representatives and some key representatives in the state do attend some of these, and some of them watch it. And we had a meeting with Representative Lada a couple months ago, and we were telling him all our findings, and he was really kind of blown away as well.
Right.
But he wants to go see some farms, so maybe I'll try to get him see some farms here soon.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all I have for the town hall stuff. Let's move on to the full spec THC only conversation. The show is getting kind of long. I don't know if I'll get into the legislative stuff this week, so I'll try to blaze past it.
Okay.
And once we get to it, I'm just going to blaze past it probably.
Okay.
But because this is a really, really important conversation. So full spectrum and THC. For the longest time, pretty much since I can remember, in the industry, legal side industry, it's been focused on THC. And then once we figured out CBD, they figured that, and then all those other little compounds. But there's so much. Yeah, the cannabinoids. There you go. Thank you. But there's so much more to cannabis than just those main key components in cannabinoids. You have the terpenes, you have other things in it. You have so much in the plant that we're still discovering. Like right now as I'm speaking, there's science going on, and who knows, tomorrow as the show airs, we could find something else out, and I have to come the next week and be like, so that was wrong.
Right. Such a brilliant time.
It is. It's an amazing time to be in the industry. And so the conversations that I'm talking about that are happening, that need to happen, are full spectrum cannabis versus high THC only cannabis. And they exist in all of our markets right now. I think even in Canada.
Cannabis products.
Yeah, and our cannabis products. And even nationally, it's just they focus on the THC. And even states that are passing cannabis now, they're focusing on, well, we don't want it to be high THC, the psychoactive, this and that. And so they're starting,
there's laws. Right?
Yeah, they're 10% or taxing it. Yeah. I think who has the THC tax? Is it New York?
Some place on the East Coast.
I think it's New York.
They're trying to fool with the percentage tax.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
And I was like, there's a percentage tax?
Yeah.
I'm like, good Lord.
Yeah,
and so what it is THC for the longest time, this is a personal opinion that I'll be saying right here, is a sales gimmick. And that's kind of what I've seen personally, is it's just a sales gimmick. And some people base their pricing off of just pure THC. Like if it's above this price, it's going to be $15 a gram. If it's if it's under this percentage, it's going to be $10 a gram or whatever. That's just an example. Right. But I've seen it many, many times. Right. And to be honest, a lot of the consumers who don't go by that and they go by actual what is real good cannabis full spectrum, they're winning because they're buying really cheap, good cannabis
Right.
versus just a high
Right.
THC cannabis, which
Right.
are two different things.
Right.
Yeah, and I'd love to hear your,
There's so many layers to this too
Yeah.
because of, concentrates.
Yes.
When you isolate that's what it is when it's, when it's in sometimes these BHO vape, they're isolating one cannabinoid.
Like distillate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, but I don't believe that all distillates are isolates, right?
True. Yeah, they're not, but they
You
all
could
take
have-
out mostly everything, but like the THC, really.
You could, but so that being said, that's one player in the 200 that we know cannabinoids right now.
Yeah.
So even there's so many layers to even being aware of whole plant medicine.
Yeah.
Cannabinoids, terpenes, flavonoids,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. There
the
you go.
new thing,
That's like more
flavonoids.
recent.
Yeah. But it's interesting. I mean that the concentrate conversation, we could rabbit hole on that because it's up to the educated consumer to ask, is this full spectrum?
Yeah.
And full spectrum, I like to translate it to whole plant medicine.
Yeah.
Because it's like all the components, all the cannabinoids, all the terpenes. And sometimes, and I've experienced this in flower, sometimes a high THC with low terpene flower or concentrate is not going to get you as high as a lower THC, more terpene, full spectrum cannabis product.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I've experienced that myself.
Yeah. So, I mean, isolating THC, is counterintuitive.
Yeah, I mean, like you said earlier, it's a great painkiller.
Right.
Yeah, it's great for killing pain.
Right.
But is it great for everything that it can be used for? No, in my opinion, it wouldn't be.
There's just so much more that the plant has to offer.
Yes, exactly. Just so much. And why focus on just one cannabinoid when there's so many others and so many other things in cannabis? Like I said, we're still figuring out and and discovering. Because I have had the 28%, the 30%, I'm just like, oh, this is okay, but I've had the 16% that just wreck me, just put me on my ass. But the terpenes are 2.5 to 3% on it, and I'm like, woo, no wonder why. And it tasted great. It was a great experience overall. And you don't get that like weirdness and like I feel sometimes a 30%. It's not grown with love. It's just grown.
Intention, yeah.
Yeah. It just has that one intent. Like, it doesn't smell good. It looks okay. And, like, it's like, oh, look how frosty it is.
Not layered.
Like,
not a layered high.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm glad these conversations are actually happening. And I'm seeing them more online is where I'm seeing them. I'm seeing them in person a little bit. But online, I'm actually seeing people, THC is just a sales gimmick. THC this, why aren't we terpenes this and that, and I'm like, oh, thank God, this is finally happening.
And even just cannabinoids, even just cannabinoids, CBG, CBC, one of my last trips back to California, I talked to a breeder about CBC, and he was saying that there was some kind of research done with diabetes and CBC and it leveling out diabetic numbers, and like for brown people that suffer so much from diet, I think that would be incredible.
Yeah, my father.
For our demographic down here. So I mean, like, there's this really incredible movie that I always like to plug called The Scientist, and I always botch his last name, Raphael Manouch, and he was the scientist that actually discovered the endocannabinoid system.
Okay, yeah, him, yes.
And he has a really incredible documentary about cannabinoids and entourage and how it's so important to have whole plant medicine.
Yeah. So
again, that's kind of when I see high THCs, I'm like, okay, but I luckily have an understanding, and so that, again, education, understanding of whole plant medicine. Well, we need all the, even with like hemp CBD, I feel like needs cannabis THC.
It does.
A little kiss to like really work its magic together. Yeah,
me too. And they've said that, a few times. It appears that, you need one and the other together.
Right.
Whatever the percentage, even if it's a little bit, for it to kind of work better.
Right.
And I've heard that. And that could be the issue with the high THC too. Because if you look at the numbers, you have the 30%, and then it's like, 0.02
Right.
CBD or something
Right.
ridiculous.
Right.
And so, if they up that a little bit, maybe
Right.
it'd be a little bit better for you versus the
Right.
high THC. Now, don't get me wrong. Certain people, if you're using the THC just for pain, I understand 100%. This isn't geared towards you. You're obviously an exception because you're using it for something different. But this is for the everyday consumer or the people who use it for something else, because terpene profiles actually help certain people with certain
Right.
things. Like there's been a time, actually, where were we? I think this past weekend I took a dry hit of one of the joints someone had rolled, and I got kind of medicated, just off of the terpene. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, you missed. I'm sorry you missed that.
Yeah.
All of us were like, Val was like, I think I got medicated. I was like, me too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I love that because at Carlsbad we had the conversation. I was like, please, can I take a dry hit off
Yes,
that?
I love dry hits, dude. Yeah, I love them. That's like the best way to taste it.
It really is. It's the cleanest way to taste the cannabis too. So yeah.
And if you guys don't know what I mean, a dry hit, if you have a joint and it's not lit and you haven't lit it yet, just just take a hit.
Pull it.
Just pull it.
Just
do a nice pull. You taste everything that's in there, and you can taste the terpenes, the profile you're gonna get, and it really makes you admire the cannabis a little bit more. Like it's just like, I know it's good cannabis when I stop and go, yeah.
It nurtures the relationship with cannabis.
There you go, 100%. So if you get a pre-roll from the dispensary, I can't guarantee you that's always going to be the case. What we did is we rolled it fresh, and that's normally where you get the most of your cannabis terpenes and everything. But like I said, I'm glad this conversation's going on, at least, because just this conversation that we're having, hopefully there's a few people that realize that, holy crap, like they've talked about some things I don't even know about, and hopefully they go and research it, like CBC, or terpenes, because there's a vast amount of different terpenes, and if you guys don't know what those are, it's pretty much just the smell and almost the flavor in cannabis, but it's in almost everything. Pine. That's where the pinene comes from.
I'm a nerd about this stuff, of course, too. Terpenes is the largest communication system in the world.
There we go.
There's over like 4,000 terpenes. Trees will throw terpenes to talk to each other. Plants throw we have our pheromones. We throw terpenes to talk to each other.
Dogs have them on their paws.
It's a pretty amazing, it's a really incredible subject to to talk about. And then also when you are enjoying the smell of something, that is the terpene and the cannabinoid that's going to act as an adaptogen to your body. Like the nose always knows. So if you smell something, your body is in synergy with that plant, that cultivar, and that's going to be probably the one that's really good for you. I always say the nose always knows.
Yeah.
And I mean, we could talk about this forever.
Yeah, I know. We could. I could be here all day. And to be honest, the points that I had on here, we barely touched them. We've just been going, we've just been freeballing this, and it's great. No, but I'm with you on that 100%, because there's been so many times where I've had that same realization.
Yeah. I mean, I learned terpenes in wine.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Because this woody smell. I'm not too keen on wine, but I've had people it has a woody whatever, and I'm like, it smells like wine to me.
Right.
But if you really dig into it and you really look at it, it has its own. Because there's certain terpenes that people don't like. There's certain ones that I don't like.
Right.
And that could mean that your body just isn't going to react to it well. It's just like, I don't like that. Don't smoke that one.
Right.
Because I've grown cannabis for many years now, and there's certain ones that I've grown, I'm just like, I don't like the way this one smells, but someone else, I love this, I want more.
Right.
And I'm like, here, I can give you some more.
Knows.
I guess.
We're all individuals.
100%. So I appreciate you having this conversation about the terpenes and everything with me, because I mean, it was really important, and I kind of feel this is something that's not going to go away, and we need to talk about more.
Right.
It needs to be out there.
Yeah. Anytime.
Well, once we start doing more town halls, maybe I'll have the whole crew on. We can all just sit down and really get everybody.
But terpene, somebody do a terpene class. Let's do something with terpenes.
Yeah, we need to really dig
collaborators.
More into it. Yeah, if you guys are listening and you want to talk about or do something with terpenes, let me know, because I'm all about that flavor. Yeah, I love good flavors. So anyway, guys, I'm going to go to the last topic that we have today. This episode's running a little long, and I'm going to blaze through this one. I'm going to update you guys real quick on the New Mexico legislature. As you guys know, we're a couple weeks in now, and to be honest, not much has been happening, because the first week, nothing happens. There's no committees going. They're figuring things out. And then about the second week, things start to trickle into their committees. And about the third week, we're kind of like going in it. I looked today, there was a bunch of committees that were in hearings. The webcast tab that I've shown you guys before is where you can find it. There was a bunch there. There was a bunch adjourned to. So we'll see. Time right now of the recording, I didn't see any cannabis bills with a committee date yet, but things just started, so that should change here soon. I'm going to tell you guys a couple of bills that were highlighted that I know on the cannabis side. There's currently 17 at the time of recording that's in the legislature. That's really not that many, even though it seems like a lot, but some of them just have cannabis mentioned. Like one's like a alcohol tax thing, and they're just kind of fixing the taxes and stuff. So there's certain things like that. But these ones right here, I'm going to tell you, directly involve cannabis. So SB 99, which stands for Senate Bill 99, meaning it started on the Senate side. This is the removal of the incremental tax. As you guys know, starting next year, our tax is going to go up about 2%. And that's going to happen every year until we reach, I believe, a total of 18 or 16%. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it is going to go up to those numbers, which I believe jumps it to a total of 26% at the end of the day. And right now we're at a total of 20. We're pretty much at a threshold. I think it's too high as is for local New Mexicans anyway. So I kind of feel that needs to be worked on. This bill right here would remove any incremental tax increase after this year. So this year it'll stay the same. It won't increase or anytime after that. What I think this is for is they're going to stop it, and then the next session they're going to go in and look at it. Okay, what do we need to do to make this work better for us? And my suggestion this whole time was tax out-of-state people higher than you tax in-state people. You know, because we're a poor state, so why wouldn't you do that? You know, and the people coming from Texas have significantly more money than we do. You know, it's a different situation than you have like Idaho going into Oregon. You have that is a poor state going into a richer state. With this situation, it's opposite. You have a rich state coming to a poor state, which benefits us even further and helps us a lot. So that's one thing we want to keep in mind. You know, the Texans, they spend a lot of money here. A lot of money. So that's SB 99. Do you have anything on that one?
I don't.
Okay. I want to make sure I got your opinion too on that.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the big pushes that, you know, we talked about tax cap a lot at the town hall. So.
Yeah, of course. And to be honest, like that's why I said, you know, some of this, it looks like they were listening to us. Yeah, like especially that one. Next is going to be HB 128, which came from the House side, and SB 6. The reason why I'm mentioning both at the same time is because they are the same bill. A lot of the times legislators, if they want a bill to really pass, they'll send it into both chambers to give it a better chance. So that way, if it fails in one, it at least has the other. So that's what they're doing on this one. However, copy and paste, same exact bill. This bill is actually the Cannabis Regulation Act changes. So on this one, they're just tightening up a few things, and they're going to try to give the CCD more power. They're going to try to fix some of the language when it comes to the background check stuff, because we're not able to do federal background checks just because of some language. You know, the federal government didn't like it. They don't like us all anyway. So it's just going to be some tightening up. To be honest, I've read it and I've gone through it. I didn't see anything too alarming. There was nothing on closing licenses, luckily. I kind of hope that dies, but that's a personal opinion. And to be honest, with our town halls, our collective efforts and everything, we didn't really find anybody wanting to close licenses. To be honest, a couple of times people changed their minds by the end of the meeting wanting to close licenses because they realized it's not going to really change much at the end of the day. You know, because we had this conversation, everybody talked, they talked it out, and some people changed their minds. So that's this bill. I mean, it's a 60-page bill, but there's a lot in there that is changing, but it's not the whole bill. It'll be underlined in new material. So there's only like a few things that are in there, but it is 60 pages. Next is going to be HB 62. That stands for House Bill. Or excuse me, 64. This is the packaging requirements. What this does is just solidifying the fact that you can't use cartoons whatsoever on your packaging, labeling, or your logos or whatever. Also, what this does is it adds in there that you can't use celebrity likeness. Now, all of these can change. So at the time right now, this is what these bills say. But once they get into the committees and everything, they're going to have amendments and everything like that. And they can and will change. So what I'm telling you right now may be the case this week, but next week it could change. So keep that in mind. I wanted to add that caveat in there. So this is adding the celebrity likeness to it. So if you have the Evander ears by Tyson, you know, the little gummies that with the ears with the bit off, can't use that because it's celebrity likeness. Or something like maybe Chuck Norris or something, can't do it. Power Rangers, really can't do it. These are certain things that I have seen in the state That's the reason why I'm bringing it up. They're just, it's funny, but it's something that we have to do. We don't want,
story.
We don't want kids to get a hold of our cannabis.
No.
As funny as it sounds, we really don't want kids.
Or even adults, or even adults that don't think it's cannabis.
Yeah, that's true. I've had a few times a couple adults got into some edibles and they had an interesting night. So yeah, this will help with that, and just kind of solidifying and really just tightening down on a few languages and stuff. And the reason why this is on its own bill is just to give it a better short, that they're just going to look at it and like, really, what do you have to debate? Other than like, okay, you can't, this is for the kids. So it's kind of something that hopefully gets passed through. So we'll see about that. This next one, I'm not too sure how I feel about it personally. It's HB 55, Oral Fluid Drug Test Pilot Program. What this is, if you guys seen it on the internet, those drug tests where it looks like you're sucking on a popsicle or something else. And then you take it out and they put it in whatever and it tells you if you're high currently. And it's going off of your saliva. So if you smoked in a certain amount of time, they're trying to see if they can detect if you're currently stoned at that moment versus going off of blood, because we know how inaccurate that is.
All
and
of
the
them are.
nanograms. Yeah, they are. And that's what scares me about this.
Yes.
Is when they have test pilot programs, it's normally they have this experimental tool and they send them out to go arrest real citizens, and to screw people over in their livelihood over an experiment. So that's what I don't like about these. If they did it in a controlled environment, they had, okay, let's get 10 people, have them smoke, we'll be in a closed parking lot, have them drive, whatever, and then we'll conduct these tests.
Right.
That's different. That's science.
Right.
That's a real scientific.
Study.
Exactly. That's a study. That's a real study. This scares me because you're putting real people's lives at risk, and you're putting real people's like futures at risk over a experiment, and that's why I don't like this. Right. I like the fact that we're looking in to see how we can find someone's intoxicated. That's cool. That's science. But this right here, I don't know. Yeah. Right. So I recommend you all reading HB 55 for yourself. Come to your own conclusions on all of these. I'm just giving you some tidbits of it, and I am telling you my personal opinions on certain of them, but that is my personal opinion. But I want all of you to go read these if you can. Some of them are very short. The Oral Fluid Drug Test Program, I think it's a page long, if that. Oh. Yeah, HB 99, page long. HB 64, I think it's like a total of maybe a few pages. So they're not really long bills. The longest one is HB 64. That one's going to be the longest because it's changes to the bill, and there's several different things in different areas.
So they're short enough to read so that you can form a decision and then call someone and say yes or no.
Yeah. Call your representatives. Yeah. Email your representatives. It takes 2 people from it to go from constituent to constituents. So it could take 2 of you to change something or to get them to
put it on your speed dial.
There you go. Yeah, or save their email somewhere, because you can do that. They have to take your call in the state. They can't hang up on you or anything. The assistant that's helping the legislator, they have to take your call and they have to write down what you say. It's not I think I'm going to take this. No, by law, they have to do that. So keep that in mind. They have to listen to you. I mean, it's their job.
I mean, they'll take your address just to confirm you're a constituent. Yes. But they will listen to you.
Yeah, they will. I mean, and I'm happy they're taking my address because that way, they confirm that I am a constituent. So yeah, I'm glad you added that. The next bill.
Don't get scared. Don't get scared.
Yeah, don't worry. It's not the man coming for you. They're just confirming that you are a constituent. So the last bill that I'm going to talk about and highlight is HB 70. This is the work protections for medical cannabis patients. Now, this one I read it, and it still doesn't seem strong enough. In my opinion. The reason is that right now we have work protections for medical cannabis card holders, but they're finding a way around it, and they're still going against the law and telling you no, because we don't know if you're high currently or whatever dumb excuse they use. Looking and reading this bill, it didn't really add anything that I saw that would help us. It just seemed more of like a, like, oh, well, too bad. So I kind of feel this needs to be broadened more, not to just medical cannabis patients, but to all of us. And we shouldn't give the employer that opportunity at all, because there's just certain things that you just shouldn't allow people to do. And if I'm at home, I'm not working, I should be able to smoke cannabis.
There's like personal time.
Yeah, I'm not on the clock, I'm at home. I'm not doing anything. I should be able to use cannabis or drink a beer, whatever I decide.
Right.
So it shouldn't be up to my employer what I do on my time off.
Right.
Is what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's none of their business. As long as I
Right.
come in and do my work.
And it could be enhancing your work.
Yeah, we use it medicinally, so yeah, it could help you at work, or maybe that's the only reason why you go to work is because you have the cannabis, and it's the only thing that keeps you, mentally okay to go. So that's something that I don't think all employers really look at when something like this. So that's the bills for the NM website. Good Lord, I did that the other day. So these are just some of the bills I wanted to highlight and everything.
Thanks, Chad.
No problem.
Yeah.
The legislative session is going to go until February 15th. We still have until the 31st of this month for bill introduction. So these 17 bills, they could change and they could increase with the coming days. Starting right now, this is the way it looks like. So we'll see. The uphill battle is going to be the Cannabis Regulation Act updates. That one does need to happen, but I kind of feel it would be able to wait for another year. But I do think that the CCD just needs more power because they can't even confiscate cannabis, and this bill would change that and allow them to confiscate things and to shut people down quicker.
Awesome.
So this is one important, but it's something that I kind of feel shouldn't be rushed.
Right.
If it doesn't pass this year and it goes to next year, I'll be happy to because it'll be done right and we'll have more time. So that's all I have for this for the legislative update, guys, and this is pretty much the end of the show. I just want to tell you guys, if you want to keep up to date with what's going on with the legislative stuff, make sure you follow all that good stuff, and follow my pages. I try to keep everybody up to date what's going on, especially with these bills. I will share links to webcasts when they do have their committees, so that way you all can watch as well. So if you're curious, just pay attention to what we're posting these days, and you never know, because sometimes people tag me in things and I end up sharing their stuff, so sometimes not even from me. So keep that in mind. But anyway, I want to thank you all again for tuning in today. I don't have any bonus material, but I want to again thank Quality Packaging for sponsoring today's episode. You can find them on Instagram at Quality Customs with a K, or contact Josh Villegas at 575-571-6288. They're providing cannabis. They're providing cannabis industry with great packaging, custom boxes, designs, and signs. Quality made men with quality made products. All right, guys, that's it for this week. I will see you next week with another episode. Corrina, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a great conversation. We went over a little bit, but that's all right. We had a good conversation. All right, guys, I'll see you next week. Suits. All right.